What kind of teenage bullet probably happened at Hogwarts that wasn't mentioned in the Harry Potter books? Breakups via howler in the dining hall. Sex under polyjuice potion. That'll duck someone up for a while. Wizard drugs. Fred and George were definitely slinging that fairy dust. Getting really angsty and going for a self-reflective ride on your broom. So many pranks harassment. When you can jinx somebody from across the room and make them vomit slugs, that place would be packed full of arsehole kids. Given that children as young as 11 are given wands and potion ingredients, there have to be just so many weird genital injuries that Madame Pomfrey has to deal with. I've always wondered what the limit to magical plastic surgery is. When Hermione had her teeth shrunk, she let Madame Pomfrey not only shrink them back to normal size, she also had them straightened. What is the extent of body modification available to people without having to go to a medical witch or wizard specialist? FUI flying under influence. Verism involving the paintings on the walls. A lot of skirts, a lot of wands, and the first thing they teach you is Levasa. What could go wrong? Edit. Grammar. Couples making an unbreakable vow to stay together and then either being miserable their entire lives or dying 6 months later. There was definitely a Hogwarts fight club, not just the DA, which was more of a secret self-defense class, but a legit, underground dueling club with betting and it. I mean, at least a few wizard couples probably used a cloning spell to have a threesome without the need of a random third person, or a weeb wizard trying to create a real-life cat Gerald out of their cat. It's a school with 100 empty classrooms and abandoned spaces with hundreds of horny teens running around. I want to know more about wizard birth control. They've got to have better it than we do. Harry and the gang getting high off wizard plant. Someone definitely used a spell to spy on the girls' changing rooms. All manner of fetish experimentation. Imagine the it furries would get into with the emoji. Lots of loud, angsty music. During Harry's time at Hogwarts, you get the feeling there'd be a constant echo of the Cure drifting through the corridors. You know, every year there was that student who refused to follow dress code. Full-length robe. Don't shame me. I am going thigh-length. Wizard hat on sideways. I always thought it'd make for a hilarious spin-off series if you followed classmates of Potters who were just getting high, getting in trouble, and thought Potter and the other main characters were nerds. I would say having sex in poorly concealed places during off hours. Boo that Snape finds a pair of kids and the snogging in the bushes during the Yule Ball and Goblet of Fire and deducts, like, 20 points each. Lavender gave Ron 150 plus BJs. It was during the 90s. Probably a wizard tried to create a Pokemon. Under a black light the room of requirement looks like a Jackson Pollock painting. I bet they had 1000 ways to cheat at everything. Senior prank day had to be amazing. Using Umbridge's weird cutting curse to cut themselves while listening to My Potion Romance. What exactly was Aberforth doing with those goats? Inappropriate charms can mean quite a few things. Considering how many creative ways that us muggles come up with as ways to cheat on our homework or test, I wouldn't be surprised if wizards come up with some ridiculous ways too, like an enchanted quill that wrote the answers for you, or a frog that would rivet each answer to you and you took a potion that lets you understand frogs for a couple hours. Maybe I go to class early and levitate a mirror above the smart kid's desk. These are just off the top of my head. Also, lots of bullying would probably be happening. What's stopping a bully from turning a nerd into a book and then shoving him in a bookshelf? No one would ever find him. Or a bully that cast a spell that every time you talk to a girl you wish your pants? Again. Top of my head. Somebody boned moaning Myrtle. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fireball shots. Let's spawn a Dramora Kinreeve in the teacher's bedroom. The look on his face will be epic. If you put kids in a place where they interact non-stop and literally live together, they will just duck non-stop. Teenage boys trying to use spells and potions to make their D bigger and ending up having to go to the hospital wing. I have two headcanons. 1. There was definitely a kid that smuggled muggle paraphernalia into the school, like a cell phone or a Game Boy. And 2. Kids for sure smoked magic weed. James Potter was the one to pass on the invisibility cloak onto Harry, going off his reputation in the book where he was portrayed as a bad boy rebel teen who was popular amongst his classmates. I think it'd be safe to assume he was definitely getting some ass back then. It must have been so easy for him to be sneaking girls back into his dorm and banging them. The girls could remain anonymous too because he could sneak them out just as easily as he brought them in. If there ever were an STD outbreak in Hogwarts, I definitely put my money on James as the culprit. It's not hard to see why a nerd like Snape, RIPOG, would be mad Lily was hanging with James. Nice guy syndrome anyone? Not sure this username would ever be relevant. Victor Crumb telling his friends, you wouldn't know her. She goes to a different school. Catching teachers having sex. They live in a castle all year long. Teachers having tons of sex. Wild parties where people use magic to undrunk themselves so they can drink even more and the insanity that ensues when those spells go wrong. More student deaths. Lots more. You have a bunch of idiot kids running around with little weapons of mass destruction in their back pockets, with seemingly no jinx active to prevent certain spells. Yes, imagine a castle filled with hidden rooms, and hormonal teenagers with the ability to create more, along with anything else they might want. Add to that jealous BF and GF with abilities to snuff each other at any point and not get caught. Maybe J, capital K, should consider a horror story. The ghosts are probably the most concerning. Moaning Myrtle was killed at the school. Losing a student and classmate is traumatic, but having them come back as a ghost that haunts the school? That's some next level horror. Dumbledore essentially had a permanent reminder of his failure to protect one of his students. I can't even imagine what her parents went through. Would they visit the school constantly? Beg their daughter to leave the toilets to come home and be a ghost in their house? There was definitely some jiggery-pockery going on with chess. Lots of teenager sex and forbidden fetus deletus coat hanger spells. I stand by the fact at least one muggle-born teenager has probably tried to duck the giant squid. I always thought wizard tattoos would be amazing. Moving works of art on you. I change them every day. Don't, it's JK. Rolling secret account. She is going to use all these answers in a Twitter thread in a couple of days. The implications around love potions and spells are disturbing to think about. Even the books touch on it a little bit with Voldemort's parents. Well, if it's anything like many British upper crust private schools, probably a lot of homosexual experimentation. To quote the Lord Grantham character from Downton Abbey, if I shouted blue murder every time someone tried to kiss me at Eton, I'd have gone horse in a month. Pooping on the floor and disappearing it. Neville was everyone's drug dealer. He just used too much of his own supply all the damn time. Finding a really hot picture and jerking off to it, but the person in the picture can see them and can't do nothing about it. I once read a fan fiction about Hermione having the best sex of her life. The punchline was that she was using the time turner to do it to herself. So many teenage boys being hit with the Aguamenti spell because they are refusing to take a shower. I can kinda see why if you have some perverted ghost living in the showers and bathrooms creeping. Girl students can just blatantly steal from boy students since there's nothing stopping girls from just walking into boy dormitories. The students are grouped by years and have classes in those groups, so an older or younger student would be free to just stroll on in while they're off in potions and filch shit. There are just too many ways that the Polyjuice potion can be exploited. Alice hates Sarah, so Alice makes a Polyjuice potion of Sarah, pretends to be her and does any innumerable amounts of things to mess up her life. From trying to break up her friendships, doing something humiliating in public, to cheating on her boyfriend. Eric has a massive crush on Alice but she's dating Andrew. Eric makes a Polyjuice potion of Andrew and has sex with Alice. Eric wants to know what Alice looks like naked. Makes a Polyjuice potion of Alice. Now not only can he see her naked but he can also make personalized pornography of her for himself later. Going sexual. Tina wants to steal something, but obviously she's not going to do it as herself. She's going to find someone she doesn't like, knows isn't popular, and the authorities will believe that they did it, not Tina. Tina goes on a crime spree. Rob gets kicked out of Hogwarts and goes to jail. Pretty much everything in the TV series, The Magicians. Magical wanking. You just know there's a spell for that. See, this is the kind of stuff I want Rowling to clarify. Lots of bullying. Can you imagine what would cliques of teen girls do to each other if they had magic wands at their disposal? Any other fanfic readers in this thread scrolling through these comments and thinking, I've read that one, and that one, and that one? So much kinky magic, all 6, masturbation, and practical jokes. Dearuptus on your friend in class. Endless orgasmus. When you're alone. It like that. A lot of these answers are about sex. But when I was a teenager, I remember trying to do all sorts of things just to be extreme. Imagine potions so you stay up for a month straight. Or distending your belly with magic so you could gulp down gallons of butterbeer. Or trying to see what the ceiling of a broom ride is. I picture that sort of stuff happens alongside vanishing nightly. Ahem messes. Smoking bud in the astronomy tower. Harry Potter and the Little Death. It was basically Porky's in a high fantasy setting. Girls enjoying riding broomsticks. A severe misuse of lever corpus, but that was kind of talked about. Using spells to spy on the girls' change room. A school of adolescent boys with not one perv. Yeah, I don't buy that. Running unsupervised to get your friend who's in the bathroom while there's a troll loose, instead of telling a teacher. I'm sure this'll be buried, but teenagers who start to like other teenagers and then figure out they can use magic to manipulate other teenagers to liking them. There's no way there wasn't anti-abuse magic all around that school. Homosexuality. It was a boarding school after all. Draco Malfoy brings a gun to school. BAMM. Down goes Harry. The end. Ron was probably not the only one to drink a love potion in all those years. There's no way that there wouldn't be girls trying to use Engorgio on their assets and boys trying it out with their junk. I can tell you that right now.